Okay. So we're good. And also I wanted to mention too, that I am really thinking that next week we might be able to meet at the restaurant. I'm going to check with John to make sure. But that's what we're going to go for. We'll still be on Zoom, but we'll still be on Zoom also, but hopefully we'll be able to get into the restaurant. But I'll let everybody know by Monday. I'll send out another email on that. So without further ado, if you are not Tom Nardone or Donald Harris, if you will mute yourselves, I would be really grateful. Because it'll take me a long time to make that happen. So Don, take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Wendy. And well, you can sure appreciate what Tom does every Friday morning if you try to step in his shoes, which this is a feeble attempt to do. But, we start with a devotional. And Mike, I have a question this morning, and it's, why is this group called Sonrisers? And it's Sonrisers. You may not even ever slow down to think about that, and you may have thought it was sunrise as S-U-N. But I just ask you personally, did you ever get up early in the morning to watch the sunrise? Hold your hand up if you've gotten up just to watch the sunrise. It's a pretty spectacular event. If you're ever on the east coast of the US, it looks like the sun literally rises from the ocean. And it's a magnificent sight. And what the sun does, it separates the darkness from the light, and it dawns a new light of the day. Currently, I'm in St. Augustine, Florida. We're directly on the ocean, and every morning I open my blinds or go down on the beach to watch another beautiful sunrise. And when I go down on the beach to watch, so do hundreds of other people. And most of them have their iPhones out, and they're trying to capture a memory to take back home of that magic moment when the sun breaks the darkness. It's something they want to carry back to Charlotte, North Carolina, or wherever the Midwest that they're from. And we come down here frequently. We were here during spring break, and there's Donna and I were walking on the beach at sunrise, and it seemed like thousands of people out on the beach to capture the significance of the sunrise during the springtime. And so this Friday morning group is called Sonrisers for a similar reason. It's really a play on the words S-O-N and S-U-N. And what we're coming to commemorate is that Jesus is the majestic light that symbolically rises every Friday through Tom's devotional. Tom tries to point to the light of Jesus that rises. In scripture, I've got a couple of passages to relate this to. In the book of John, chapter 8 and verse 12, Jesus says, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light. Did you hear the words of Jesus? You will not walk in darkness. You will have the light of life. And that's symbolic of eternal life with Christ. And Sonrisers on Friday morning is trying to help to spread the message of Jesus of walking in his light. Without Jesus, the world, all of us, we're in darkness. We're in spiritual darkness and literal darkness. In another passage, Jesus was talking to his followers, and this is recorded in Matthew 5:14. He tells them, he's talking to his followers, you are the light of the world. How in the world are we, sinful people, the light of the world? And yet Jesus is telling his followers that they are the light of the world. He goes on to say in the next verse, to let your light shine before men, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. We can be the light of the world by doing the good deeds that he equips us and enables us to do. But we're not the source of the light. We're merely reflecting his light, like a mirror does. And then finally, Jesus says in John 8:35, the light is among you for a little while longer. Remember, in a few verses earlier, he says, I am the light. And so he concludes this discussion with his disciples, and he says, the light is among you for a little while longer. Walk while you have light, lest the darkness overtake you. The one who walks in darkness does not know where he is going. Well, that's my phone, and I'm going to kill it. Sorry. Jesus says, the light is among you for a little while longer. Walk while you have the light, lest the darkness overtakes you. The one who walks in darkness does not know where he is going. While you have the light, believe in the light, that you may become the sons of light. So it's a pretty clear choice among us. Do you want to stay in darkness, or you want to grasp the light? Light shows the way. Light's a disinfectant. Light cleans. Light separates the darkness and lights the path. And Jesus is that light. He is the sunrise. It's clearly separated every Easter morning and reminds us every day when the sun rises and the darkness disappears. That's all I had to say about Sonrisers this morning, and there it is.
That's awesome.
It's an actual picture taken yesterday morning.
Beautiful. Just beautiful.
Very nice.
Just beautiful. All right. You want to get us going in a prayer?
Sure. Heavenly Father, thank you for today, for the ability to just to celebrate that you separate the darkness from the light every day, and that you did so with our sin as well by victory over the cross. And that victorious moment on Easter morning when you arose from the grave. Pray that we would choose light versus darkness today and follow you instead of follow the world. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. That was awesome, Don. Thank you so much for sharing that. There's a lot of people on here that are not from Charlotte and don't normally come to our group or didn't come to our group previous in Charlotte. So I'm going to tell a quick little story about how Sonrisers really got started. I, along with Jay Neal, Jeff Neal, Leon Humphrey, I don't know if you folks remember him. If you're from around here, you might. We were going to a group called Sonrisers on Friday mornings that started at 7:30 a.m. and it was a real estate group. And after the first few meetings that we attended, we all started talking and felt like we had to take a shower when we left, because it was such a, how can we get one over on the next guy kind of meeting. And we were all Christians. We all knew each other. So we said, hey, let's start one that's based on Christ. Whoa, how about that? And so our first meeting had 7 people in it. Our second meeting had 12. And then it just grew from that. So that was 18 years ago that this group started, which I think is pretty cool. And it's because of all of you coming and sharing and, just breaking bread with one another and operating from abundance rather than scarcity, willing to share what you know, wanting to do business together. It's amazing, what comes out of this meeting, and just so wonderful to have the encouragement that we get from each other. And I just, I'm so grateful for it. I don't know what I'd do without it. I don't know what I'd do without each of you. I've just made great friends in this group, and and we do business together. And there's that, so it's funny because we put Christ first and nothing else, and you can really, really, really see the difference. So, and the way that it's growing since COVID with people from all over the country is just, in my opinion, way, way cool. God works. He just makes me laugh the way he does things. It's pretty cool. So thank you, Dawn, for sharing that and bringing that to light. Get the pun. So I have to share with you folks. I'm so excited that we have our millionaire mailman on the line with us today. So I got to meet Tom Nardone at a Financial Friends cruise. Now, some of us have to just take one for the team and go on cruises to learn. and I volunteered to be the one from Carolina Hard Money that, took that hit and got on a cruise. In fact, I've probably been on, I don't know, 10 at least. But you've heard me talk about the Financial Friends cruises and the incredible talent of people on that cruise that, there's 40 different speakers that get on that cruise and talk. And it's just a great, not only sharing of information, but you get to meet a lot of really good people and do business with people all over the country. It's just awesome. And Tom Nardone is one of those that, gosh, when he would get up to speak, the room would always be crowded because they knew that they would not only be entertained, but they would be able to learn a lot. Tom, I put a lot of your bio in the notice or the reminder that I sent out, but I would really like for you to go over it again and tell your story. If you want to share a screen, I've got the ability for you to do that. I've set it up for you to do that if you wanted to.
Sure.
And so I'm just going to kind of just turn it over and let it be you, Tom.
Okay, thanks. Well, I thank you, Wendy, and I thank you, Don, for the opportunity to be here and share with you guys. And I apologize about last week. I know I was intended to be on and I just ate something that didn't agree with my stomach or my intestines. And it was a rough Friday morning, but it's great to be here. I'm still a little unfamiliar with the total format here. So yeah, I'll certainly tell you guys my background and how I got started in real estate. And I do have a PowerPoint presentation to show you guys what I'm lately doing. And the reason I show this to you is I want to see if you guys could figure out how to implement this in your market, because it's an awesome little niche that very few people are doing. And I'm excited to tell you guys about it and tell you more about a cruise coming up at the end of this. So, but anyway, I'm down here in Boca Raton, Florida. Don, I see you're just up the coast in St. Augustine. Down here in Boca, it's kind of between Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale and Miami areas, if people aren't familiar with that. So I came to this area. I'm originally a Jersey boy, got started in the Northeast, came down here, got a job in Fort Lauderdale as a mailman when I was just 19 years old. And back at that time, I met my wife at the post office, still married to the same woman. It's been almost 40 years now. That was when I was 19, I started working around. I'm 61 now. So where the time went, I have no idea. But around 1985, I stumbled across some mentors in Florida. I'll show you their pictures in a little bit in the slides. But I started to learn about, I was getting bored of my blue collar job and wanted to learn like how to get ahead of the rat race. And I met these Florida mentors, and they were really nice guys. And because they were local, I really related to them. And they said to me, Tom, you're a mailman. It's like 1985 when I took that course. I was 25 years old. They're like, all day long, you walk around or you drive around and all you do is you see houses. So if you see rundown vacant houses, typically, a house that's vacant isn't doing the bank any good. They're probably not getting a payment. It's not doing the borrower any good. He's probably making payments on it. So, I kept my eyes out for those. And and I bought my first rental property at age 25, and just set a simple goal to not be a seminar junkie, but to buy a new house, a new home that I could take title subject to the payments, and then rent it out, and then be able to say I've earned my right to spend money to go to the next seminar. And I did that over a 10-year period, and I accumulated about 35 rental houses, and they were all on my mail routes. So I didn't spend hardly a dime on marketing, because back in 1985, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have the internet. I would just use the post office records to find out where the people moved to, and it worked out good. So, you know, with today's modern tools and technology, everyone who's on this Zoom meeting here, you know, we got a lot of things that we can do today to market. So it's a pretty cool thing. But that's how I got started, pretty much. So
That is super cool. So how long were you a mailman before you decided to go for the gusto and not be a mailman anymore?
it was 16 years. I met Jack Miller and John Schaub when I was 25 in 1985.
Wow.
And it took me 10 years. It's like, and it, you know, one get rich quick type of program. It was just a, you know, build wealth slowly type of program. And now that I'm in my 60s and knowing where the market conditions are today, I'm actually liquidating my properties, because if you remember my talk from that last cruise this year, is like, when you see $1 million in equity in your hand, close your hand, right? So before it gets away from you, because there's an election coming up, there's you know, there's a lot of uncertainties. So who knows where the market might be in 2022.
That's right. And now, you know, now's the time to have some cash in your pocket, and take advantage of that equity more so than any time, I think, in the past couple of decades. I think now would be the best time to be able to sell it. But at the same time, it's also a really good time to pick up rentals and continue to build that wealth. It really just depends on where you are in your life, right?
Yeah. And I think also where you are in your market and your geographic location, because, you know, Florida's coastlines have proven before that they are vulnerable to bubbles. But, you know, there's places in Central Florida, which I'm about to show you in my presentation, that Florida gets really country really fast as soon as you get like either below Disney or north of Disney. And you could buy a house for $50,000 there still. And you could, and there's many states in the United States where you could do that same thing, and you could be a big fish in a small town.
Yeah, I like that. So let's see the presentation.
All righty. So let me see. I guess I start by sharing my screen. Okay. And can you all see my screen? Okay.
Not yet. Do you have it open already? Your presentation, do you have it open on your computer already?
You know, oh, I see. There's a blue share button here.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Okay.
We can see it.
All right. So let me click here and then click start. Can you see that full screen?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. All right. So what I want to talk to you guys about today is something that I didn't hit on it by accident, but if any of you have ever attended any Jim Napier seminars, I was a big fan of Jimmy Napier back in the 80s, and he recently passed away less than a year ago, maybe like 4 or 5, 6 months ago. And he's the one who actually got me looking at mobile home lots. And I've kind of dabbled with it over the 30 years. But as I realized, as our markets get to what appears to be another bubble here along the coast, that affordable housing range never crashes. So I started recently redabbling in that area, and I'll share exactly what I've been doing. First of all, my legal disclaimer I throw in here: I'm not a CPA, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an accountant. It's my 3 days of postal training I had that qualifies me to give you investment advice. Okay. So what are my reasons for doing this? This is my family, and like I said, I had that blue collar job, and the residual income I get from rentals, and the chunks of money I get from doing fix and flips keep me going along. This is me back in the day, just to show you
Love
how
those shorts.
Tom Selleck look. Tom Selleck look.
That's
Back in
awesome.
1985. This is what I like to do on weekends, and I'll talk to you guys about the party we're going to have at my house prior to the next Financial Friends Network cruise. But on the weekends, you'll probably find me out on my airboat in the Everglades. And when Walter was down about a year ago, we took a few of the guys out, had a little bit of fun on the airboat. For some reason, I don't know, hunting alligators in the Everglades is sort of fun. So my boys and I, we do that when we get the time. These are my two main mentors, was John Schaub and Jack Miller. Jack is the guy on the left. Jack, actually, he died 11 years ago. I think it was day before yesterday.
Wow.
So it's already been 11 years. I was back in 2006. This is some of the guys that I mostly learned from. Pete Fortunato is still alive and well. Jay Turner still alive and well. John Schaub, and I don't know about Don Tosher, but I've learned from pretty much all these guys on here. So if anybody recognizes these faces, just hit me up with an email. I'd just like to hear from you. It's nice to hear from the old guard. In fact, that's how I met Walter Wilford, is back in the early 90s going to Jack Miller events.
Yeah, he's a legend, no doubt.
Yeah. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is developing mobile home lots and mobile home and putting mobile homes on them. That's what I've been working on doing. And I've done it before in the past, but I recently picked it up again because, as I mentioned, you know, being in Boca Raton here, when the average house gets up to like 450,000, I say, oh my goodness, here we go again, because I've seen those $450,000 houses correct all the way back to 200,000. So I've seen like a 50% rollback in prices. But you know what, mobile homes, if you can get them free and clear, and you can own them, you know, in very low price ranges, which we'll talk about, it's a rock solid investment, and it's a market and price range that never crashes. Now I say mobile homes, not trailers. Okay. Most people, when they think of a mobile home, they think of this, and this is one creative redneck here who decided to turn his pontoon boat into a front porch.
I have to say that's a great idea.
It is a great idea. It was worthy of a slide in the presentation. So
Wow.
yeah, this is not the kind of mobile home that I envision. Although back in when I was 27 years old in 1987, I attended a Jimmy Napier seminar up in Pensacola, Florida. I used to do these seminars at the Holiday Inn Gulf Breeze. If anyone's ever been to one of those, just give me a shout out. I'd like to hear from you. This is a mobile home I bought at one of Jimmy's events. And you know what? I still have this mobile home. Back in 1987, it was renting out for about $300 a month. Now the rent is like $850 a month. And I still have it. It's been paid for. I think all in, I paid $3,500 for the lot. I bought the mobile home. It was used. I paid $7,000 for that. You know how many times I've gotten my whole investment back in my pocket many times over?
Amazing.
It's like the return is infinite. And
Amazing.
this is not paradise mobile homes. See, I will admit that these are more like 1980s style, kind of old school mobile homes, but this is another one I own in Pensacola. And actually, when the hurricanes, we just had a couple of hurricanes zigzag the panhandle, as you guys know, just watching the news as little as 10 days ago. And I went up there and checked on them. They're fine. And I actually have the same property manager that's been managing them from when I was 25 years old. He's still my same manager, if you can believe that or not. The reason I drove up there is because the cell phones were out for a few days and I didn't hear from them. So I just wanted to check. Now, this is actually Boca Raton, Florida. This is about just a mile from my house. And although I live in a nice neighborhood with nice, you know, site-built single-family houses, we actually do have mobile home subdivisions, and we do have mobile home parks. Yeah, right here in Boca Raton, Florida. And this property, the investing I'm talking about here is not mobile home parks. That's a whole nother niche. This is just buying homes in a mobile home subdivision where, for all practical purposes, it's just like a single-family house in the sense that you own the dirt and you own the home. So this is a home that I put in place in Boca Raton. I did this deal 15 years ago. Why I didn't keep going with this model, I don't know. I got sidetracked, I guess, with houses. But a woman called me with her old mobile home that was once on this lot, and it was a tear down. It just needed to have the claw truck come in, and we got rid of it. But I bought it for $30,000. I put this mobile home on there, which cost me 70 to purchase it and block and level and tie it down. And I sold the whole combination. I was into it for about 100, and I sold this property for 180.
Wow.
Like, that's not that bad. But I got away from the model. That was 15 years ago. That home still just looks like that today, because that's a recent picture. This is actually a mobile home that I picked up subject to. And I bought this around, it was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. And it was sort of in the crash, okay, because obviously the prices were collapsed back then. But again, this is Boca Raton, Florida. This is a 1980 model, which today makes this, how old? About 40 years old. Well, because it's Boca, and because some mobile homes do appreciate in value with the land, okay? I know it's a popular statement to say, well, mobile homes don't go up in value, they go down in value. Nuh-uh, not in every town. So you got to know your market. But I bought this for $40,000, and it had a fully assumable FHA mortgage, which we took over the loans on. So it only had 7 years to amortize that last 40,000 down to like nothing. And about a year and a half ago, we made payment number 360 on it. So the property was free and clear. And I said, you know what? I sort of kind of sense a bubble. And this was right before all the COVID hit. I said, these mobile homes in here are still selling for 180. I'm just going to cash out of this and sell it for 180. So this little double wide, that's a small double wide, 40 years old, we sold it for 180. So there is value here. But that was getting an old one and more or less doing a fix and flip and buy and hold. Now, again, where I live, the very bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see Boca Raton. That's the area I'm in. The red line represents Route 27, which I call the Heartland Road, because it goes through the heartland of Florida. And once you get away from Palm Beach and all this, that, you know, they speak y'all in Central Florida, you know, it goes away when you get to Orlando, but then it quickly starts again when you get up to the villages there. And there are lots of little country towns along that route. And by the way, the market I've chosen to work in is about 90 minutes from here. So it's not close to home, but you know what? I go up there maybe once a week. And if I feel like I got a reason to stay in a hotel overnight, then I just check into a hotel. This is what we're doing now is I'm finding mobile home lots that are just sitting out in the country, but they're zoned for mobile homes. And being here in Florida, as many of you have recently seen, the wind likes to blow at 150 miles an hour here every once in a while. So when a hurricane takes out a home, it just leaves an empty lot with a power pole. And a lot of times it's just a little concrete pad that leads up to it. So this is the style of mobile home that I'm ordering in this day and age. About probably 6 weeks ago, I ordered 3 homes that look just like this. And the first one is scheduled to be delivered to the lot in about 3 weeks from now. And I just got an arrival date the other day. One's coming the first and then the third one, the second week in December. So what's cool about it is after I buy the lot and I'm anticipating a home like this to come, there's not a lot to do, which I'll talk a little bit more about. But I wanted you to see this is not a bare bones box like those earlier ones. They have siding, they have shutters on them. You can, a lot of times for $500, you could add like a little dormer to the top, like you see over the front door. And this is a simple but affordable, but yet very profitable model to be able to buy and put on a lot. Now they do get more elaborate, and I'm telling you, this is a Palm Harbor model. This is about 2,300 square feet, and it's still just a double wide. But man, if you saw the inside of this is amazing. In fact, if you get a chance, just go on YouTube. You can see all these models. Just go to YouTube, put in a Lulabelle model, put in Lulabelle, and you'll see a bunch of videos will come up, and you can take a walkthrough tour. And I think you would agree with me, regardless of the size of your house you live in, because I live in a very nice house. I would live in this mobile home in a heartbeat.
Well, you know, what's different about that too, Tom, is the roof pitch is not your normal mobile home roof pitch.
Yeah.
On there. It's a little bit higher. How much does something like that go for if you were to buy it direct from the dealer?
Yeah, well, there's a big question there because if you were to pay retail for it, probably that home I would imagine could be as high as 130,000.
Wow.
But one thing I've done is I've developed a relationship with a dealer. In fact, this kind of goes back to way back in my early days at Jack Miller events. There was a guy named Ernest too. I don't know if any of you knew Ernest, but he was a big mobile home dealer. And he said to me one day, he goes, "Hey, if you ever want to buy a mobile home, just let me know. I got my dealer's license. I'll just mark it at $500 and sell it to you over a factory invoice."
Wow.
So I did that, and I ordered some mobile homes from back in the 80s. In this day and age, I actually was able to strike a similar relationship with a guy who would do it for just a couple $1,000s over invoice because he knows I'll be a regular customer. That's what I encourage you guys to do. Does you no good to know who my guy is, and it's a proprietary relationship. But you know, Florida's probably too far to get it shipped to you anyway. Just go local and work out a relationship with someone. But
Well, in the Carolinas, we're pretty close to a lot of the mobile home dealerships anyway.
oh, good.
The manufacturer companies, they're manufactured all over the place right around here.
Good, and that's important. Yeah, the Carolinas, Georgia. Once you get north of Disney World, you know, you have that here in Florida too. Ocala and Lake City, and I'll show you actually some slides of what that would look like. So this is the gold. Like people say, well, what does gold look like when you're panning for gold? Okay, this is when I'm out panning for gold, driving for dollars. This is what I look like. What it looks like. I mean, it's, you know, concrete slab sitting there. You off to the right, you see a power pole with the wires disconnected, an old set of steps. It's like, man, there was at one time an old school mobile home sitting there. Well, how many people do you really think are inquiring about lots like this? So I first started sending them postcards, and the marketing could be a whole nother day to talk about. But lately I just started skip tracing them, guys. Anybody can do this. You see an old lot like this, just skip trace them for a couple bucks, get their cell phone number, call them up and say, "Hey, I know you own this property. This call's a little out of the blue, but what do you plan on doing with that?" And just strike up a conversation. And we closed on 6 lots like this in the last 4 months.
Wow.
Just got another contract yesterday. So this is a lot we actually just closed on about 6 weeks ago. And this is 1/3 of an acre. The power poles just added a picture off to the left, but it had an old shed, had a slab there. But in many cases, you don't even need to put a concrete pad for a mobile home. As long as the ground is stable, and that's up to the decision of your installer, it can just go on the lot. But this is on a beautiful lake, and I actually bought a second lot on this beautiful lake. I paid $22,000 for that. But if you look off to your right, you see there's a brand new cinder block, which we don't have a lot of stick-built homes here in Florida. We mostly have cinder block on a concrete slab. But the Florida zoning, and I imagine the Carolinas, Virginia, a lot of the southern states, the zoning's loose enough that you can have a mobile home right next to a site-built home. As long as the zoning permits, it's fair game. So, you know, a lot of people would rather live in a nice mobile home amongst stick-built houses that are appraising at full value. Yours may not appraise for full value, but we'll talk a little bit more about that.
What did you pay for the lot previous, the one with the pad and the stairs on the side?
Oh, that one, I actually didn't buy that one yet. I'm still marketing to that guy, but the second one without the pad and the stairs, that I paid $22,000 for. But the one I got under contract yesterday, I paid $8,000 for.
Wow.
And I'm targeting, the reason I look for the pad and the stairs, because I know there's 2 things there. There's already a well in the ground, because there was once a home there before, and there's probably a septic system, or that last lot I showed you just happens to be on city water and city sewer. So I don't have to do anything. And guess what else, guys? I don't have any impact fees to pay too, because it's a replacement. It's not a new construction technically. So this is the end product typically that I'm delivering to a homeowner. And depending on the neighborhood, I can sell this for $199.
Wow.
And they're getting a brand new 4-bedroom, 2-bath home, 1,800 square feet. So we'll talk a little bit more about the numbers. What I wanted to get you familiar with is how do these things go together? Like, what does a mobile home look like? Well, we do have these manufacturing plants. This is actually a plant up in Lake City, Florida. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. This is actually in Waycross, Georgia. Is this particular factory? But but they build them from the ground up. They weld the frames from scratch, and it's basically like an assembly line.
Serial number and they stamp it too. So if you ever take the VIN numbers off the side or the numbers you can't find it, you can pull and you got to get and you got to go to.
What he's showing you there is he's showing you there's VIN numbers that get stamped into the side of these, just like an automobile going down a production line at General Motors assembly plant. You know, they get stamped with a VIN number, so they are more or less considered motor vehicles in a light sense. But yeah, they do have a registration, a tag, and an identification number for both sides if it's a double wide. But they start with the frame. The reason they could build these things so affordably, and the reason I say affordably, let me give you the big picture up front so you can put it in your mind for reference, is the last 2 homes I just ordered are 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,800 square feet, and price delivered to the lot with taxes and everything is $75,000.
Wow.
Guys, an 1,800 square foot home that gets set up in 2 days.
Wow.
For $75,000. And I did a rehab down by the beach, which we sold at the early days of COVID. I had $75 into the fix and flip on a cinder block home. And I gave my life to that house for 6 months because of all the inspections. We did it. We were good boys and girls. We pulled all the permits. We did it right. And when COVID shut down, let me tell you, when you call the building department and you need a plumbing rough inspection so you can put all your drywall up, and the building department tells you, well, we'd like to tell you we're open for inspections, but we're not doing any remodel inspections right now. We're just doing new construction inspections for COVID. So call us back in 2 months. What does that do for your holding costs on a property? I have no holding costs, man. Ship the thing here. I have 0 trips to Home Depot. So the reason they keep these costs so low is you'll see this is the floor of the decking. They put flooring in these that looks just like any regular house, but it's one big 12-foot or 14-foot wide roll. And before they put up any walls, this is the flooring installed. They roll the whole thing out. They do everything in like one touch application. So so that's what you're seeing there is they basically have the whole thing. They roll out the flooring and put it down all in one application. So how fast does it take them to build these? This factory actually builds 8 to 12 entire homes in a single day.
Wow.
Starting from building the frame. So, and now you got to get in line to get one, because right now the market's gotten really hot, especially with people moving out of the cities, violence and rioting and looting in the cities, and they're moving to the rural areas. So let me tell you guys that the market for this right now is you're just seeing the beginning of this getting hot. People fleeing the suburbs, whereas all, my kids and all the millennials were into this whole urban concept, but now, depending on where you live, it could be rough. This is the factory here. You'll see these chains, they pull these, the floor along on these. You'll see the guy, he's standing on those rails, almost like a railroad track. And they just roll them along like a big assembly line. There you see they're bringing a roof in to lower the whole roof on.
Wow.
The walls are all pre-assembled. So what you see there is everything is done in the factory because it's under a roof. Unlike a site-built home, it could rain, it could snow, it could cause construction delays. That's why they could build 8 to 12 of these in a single day, because it's all under a roof in a factory. This is what they call the mud room. I thought this was kind of interesting. They build the ceiling.
This is a mud room. Wow.
They have the ceiling down low enough where you can reach it.
Right now, they've already got the can lots cut. And then they'll start coming in, they'll blow it.
That's amazing.
So see, they mud the ceilings there, and then they just lower the whole ceiling down on the mobile home. What you'll see here is, if any of you, rental property or rehabbers have ever put on a roof, you'll notice when they roll out that, that black tar paper that they put all the tin tags in, It's usually in like 3-foot rolls. Not here at the mobile home factory. The rolls, if you look up at the ceiling in this shot, it covers the whole roof in one rollout.
Wow. Wow.
Wow, it looks like they do one narrow sheet, like a 3-foot wide one, and then they pull one continuous big one all the way. Wow.
See, so they roll out one continuous sheet of tar paper all the way down the whole home, and then they tin tag it down. It takes them literally like 20 minutes to tin tag a whole roof.
Wow.
And of course, they got guys crawling around the house like ants, everybody doing their part. So then it comes to the interior finish.
Those are the same cabinet pulls in my kitchen.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're using quality stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Every home from us will come standard with this EcoVate thermostat. It is a smart thermostat. If you ever have
So the bottom line is they're putting smart thermostats in these things. Now let me see if I can show you. Well, what's cool about this is I can start marketing this house
Wow.
prior to, because these are Matterports. If you guys are familiar with Matterports, this is a Clayton home. You could go to claytonhomes.com and you can look at these Matterports. Look at this kitchen, okay? I can get this home. Can you all see that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I can get this with the appliances delivered to the lot for $75,000.
That's amazing.
I got 0 trips to Home Depot. You know, my wife and our microwave broke 6 weeks ago. We went to Home Depot, Lowe's, our big appliance center here. They're like, I'd like to sell you a microwave. We don't have stoves. We don't have any refrigerators because of COVID. That stuff is all anticipated to arrive in November.
Wow.
Has anybody tried buying appliances for their rehabs? It's like if your dishwasher breaks and you need a dishwasher, you're probably going to get stuck with an ugly bottom line white one because it's whatever they got. And people are buying them because they just need an appliance, right? But this is amazing, actually.
Look at the interior door. That interior door is on the other side of the kitchen.
You mean like the
On the other, go to the other side of the kitchen. Go in the kitchen. There you go. And go to the left of that counter in the kitchen. Where did I see it?
over here?
Turn to the
Oh, you
right.
mean the entrance to the
There you go. Over there. That door that's going into the laundry room. Look at it.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and this is the very simplified version. I mean, it gets a whole lot fancier and a lot more craftsy than this. So let me just, without spending too much time right here, let me just take you into find my way over.
Well, the other thing too, Tom, is you don't have to buy a new mobile home. There's plenty of repossessed mobile homes out there that you can buy used that are in great shape for pennies, like 20,000, 30,000, right?
Yeah, there are. Now, they're very expensive to move. So you have to put it all into your calculation because not only do they have to disassemble it, but then they have to block level a tie and assemble it when they get there. But in this particular case, if I can get this delivered to the lot, that's for $75,000. To get this set up, which takes 2 days, is $6,000.
Amazing.
And that's the beauty about it. So let me just exit out of here because I got a lot more to show you.
Tom, we got a couple of questions on here. How is the maintenance on mobile homes? I know mobile homes are really easy to maintain, but it says the flooring seems to be such a custom. I would worry about having difficulty in replacing it.
You know what? You would, in this day and age, most people, they either put down tile or they put down, plank flooring.
On top of it, right?
Yeah, and you would just go right over that. What you saw, as pretty as that looked, it looks like individual planks, and it's got all the grooves and the grains in it. So when you look down, you basically got to really look at it hard to see that that's not like, you know, modern day plank flooring. But that all comes on like a 12 or 16-foot wide roll, and it's all rolled out and glued down in one application. So to answer your question, if you wanted to change the flooring in a particular room, you just floor that room wall to wall, just like any other application.
Yeah.
So I picked the right home for the right lot when I do this. If you saw that bathroom, you saw like that big tower window behind that Roman tub. Well, that's because a lot of the properties I'm buying are on a lake. So it'd be stupid to buy a home without a bunch of pretty windows along the back that shows off a lake view, because that lake view is going to sell that home. So, you know, chances are the properties you guys look at may not have a lake view, but just look at your lot. If you got a nice tree view or something like that, you know, you want to create that look over the kitchen sink. So what does the arithmetic look like on these? Okay, start with the end in mind. My end in mind, I've done my market research. I know I could sell these at $199.9 because there's comps all over on used ones at like $179 and $189 for the lot and the home, and they're not brand new like mine. So when I bring mine, I'm going to be able to bump the price up. And like I said, with the massive influx of people coming in, and keep in mind where I live, Florida might be a little unique because it is considered a destination state. So the folks that, you know, want to leave New York and New Jersey or the Midwest, the cold snow states, you know, they head to Florida. So we have a lot of people coming in right now, but every market needs affordable housing. Where else can you go to buy a 4.2 for $199.9?
Right.
You can't. I don't even think you could build one yet. You have to build at $100 to $120 a square foot. That's another good point, guys. In the last 60 days, lumber prices have gone up 60% in the last 60 days. It's because of COVID creating a few shortages here and there, and it's because the building market right now is so hot. And coming out of COVID, who would have ever thought that the real estate market and building would be that hot?
Right.
But it is. So this is what the arithmetic looks like. If I'm into my lot for 25 to 45, and that includes my septic and my well, and I get the home delivered for say 70, 75, depending on the lot, you know, you have to put a site plan together because you're going to have setbacks. So you can't put just any house on any lot if it's a smaller lot like the ones I've shown you. If you're dealing with an acre, yeah, you could probably put any size home you want on it because your setbacks are going to be less critical. But it cost me about $15,000 to get it set up. So I'm all into it for $115,000, and I can sell it for $199,000. I have a net profit of $75,000. That's pretty bizarre. Where do you go to buy a new home for $199.9? It qualifies for FHA, VA, and USDA, depending on the property and the place. Does this price range ever crash? No, it really doesn't. There'll always be people looking for that. I've been looking at the lots on the water. I've been paying up to $45,000 for those. Some of them have city water, city sewer. If you find one that does have well and septic, then obviously that's a bonus. I don't have any trips to Home Depot. Remember, these come with the appliances installed. The brand new door knocks with the keys dangling from them are installed. The ceiling fans are installed. There's nothing to do. All you got to do is set up your decks and your stairs and your driveway and landscape it. If you want to do landscaping, a lot of them in the city where I'm doing this, they just require you have grass, because you know you'll probably dig up the grass having the home moved in there and stuff, but they just want fresh grass for 15 feet around the home. That's the only requirement. I go a little further and I put in decent looking bushes and a few little palm trees and stuff. So the advantages over a fix and flip is everything is custom in the fix and flip. You know, you don't know what you're getting until you start opening up walls, especially some of these older homes that are historical. And I know because I have a historical home I just restored in the West Palm Beach Historic District. So, and by the way, Lowe's and Home Depot, I don't know how they are up your way, but even finding cabinets lately, they're, you know, a lot of them come in from China, some of them. And I know the Chinese cabinets have been popular lately, and the prices have gone up quite a bit. And this stuff is all made here in the US. So a lot of things you used to buy at the big box stores are not available as much anymore. So how many contractors can you manage? You know how when you got a big fix and flip going on, oh my goodness, you got so many things. And this guy has to work around that guy, but hold on, he did a little bit of work, and then the electrician, and then he's got to come back because the drywall guy needs to go and cover up his roof, and you got to have the inspection, all that stuff. You don't deal with any of that. In Florida, and it's probably the same in your state, is the guy who sets up the mobile home is called an installer, and that's a licensed position. So you're only using licensed contractors. Well, he's not allowed to actually do the electrician stuff, you know, get the power pole and, you know, swing the wire over from the, where your power comes in from the street. But an electrician does that. Average cost is about $2,000. It's about a 2-day job. Okay, the AC guy, that's a separate license here in Florida. And then a GC for your deck or your driveway. And that's being legal eagle with everything. You're not cheating the system. You're not like not pulling permits, because if any of us have fixed up any kind of house, there's always been permits that you've skipped saying, oh, I'm not doing that. That's ridiculous. But here, everything is straight up. So that means you're dealing with the guys who actually do drive around in the big fancy trucks. And if they charge a full price, that's okay, because they're licensed and insured. I talked to my guy, his name's Roberto, yesterday. And I do have a guy who does painting for me, and Roberto will do it for half of the price the guys with the big fancy trucks will do it. But Roberto drives a truck that looks similar to this. And yeah, I'll save $2,000 using them. But, you know, if somebody gets hurt and cuts a finger off with a saw, now you got a problem. Okay. Like I said, there's not even painting to do on these when they come. You hear that? No painting, nothing. I mean, again, the installer does his job. It takes him 2 days. The AC guy, the plumber, and the electrician, and they're out like in a week, all of them, and it's done. So what can you do this? You know, Walter, you know, I actually spent a lot of time with Walter, and he's got a lot of rehabs going on in Jackson, and his model's cool. It's, you know, he's got a mission statement for his market. And his is, you know, putting a small dollar IRA together with a large dollar IRA and finding a funding source or a capital partner. So how I've been structuring these deals is I had some money in my self-directed Roth IRA, and it was under 100,000, but in the big picture, that's not a lot of money. So I started going around buying the lots using the money I had in my self-directed IRA. And then I was like, well, once I take down the lot, then I can find a large dollar IRA to come in and fund the price of the mobile home. So this is what the transaction looks like, kind of front to start. What I would do is I would put together a JV, and you first kind of decide, do you want to do this in a tax-free environment using joint ventures, or do you want to do it, you know, just through your LLC and do it as a taxable event? Either one is fine. Either one will work. And it's just a little bit of education, like I've showed you guys, about telling your large dollar IRA or your funding partner, if you're going to do it in an LLC or mortgage, your mortgage lender or hard money lender, just tell them, listen, the collateral isn't there right now, but it's going to be on its way shortly. And what we'll do is, see, before I place my order at the factory, those VIN numbers I was showing you that they stamped into the frame there, we will know about a week prior to us placing the order what those VIN numbers are going to be. And they're going to make the mobile homes with those VIN numbers. So when I find my funding partner, I say, well, listen, we'll draw up all the paperwork and we'll put right in there. And it includes these mobile home serial numbers. Because if you guys have ever bought a mobile home before and you've ever looked at the deed, you'll find out that the deed usually has the legal description of the dirt, but then it also says includes Clayton model number with VIN number. And the VIN numbers are usually right on a warranty deed. So that's what we do, is we put those numbers in the paperwork. So even if I were to fall over dead tomorrow, you know, this thing's going to roll off the production line, and my funding partner or hard money lender or whatever, he is going to have, at the end of this day, 2 homes are going to get delivered to that lot, and the installer's already been contracted to do his thing. So it's like a fail safe for the money partner, because there's not going to be anything for him to do, really. Just the things, he just has to make sure that things happen in the right sequence. And we're not talking about a 20-year transactions here, guys. We're talking like average 6 to 9 months. And if I could pull it off in less time, I will. It's just that right now there's a little backlog for producing these. The other day when I talked to my manufacturer, I said, just curious, how many homeowners do you have like in the pipeline now? So we got 225 homes to build. I was like, wow, that's a lot. It's like, well, remember, you know, we build about a half a dozen of these, you know, depending on the size to a dozen per day. So we crank them out like, you know, cars on General Motors assembly line. So what I typically offer the funding source is like 10% and 2 points. And I usually defer, I've been successful in finding financial friends through Financial Friends Network that would do these deals with me. And we just defer the points and the payments really to the very end till it's sold. So the cool part about it is if you look at the timeline on the bottom, usually my IRA will take down the lot. Now I've done it with just putting up $100 because the large dollar IRA has said to me in the past, well, I don't mind funding the whole project. We'll just do a joint venture with you putting up $100 and the large dollar IRA putting up the rest of it. Now I've heard Quincy talk on cruises before about, you know, joint ventures. If one person brings the deal to the table and the other person brings the capital, and that's the joint venture arrangement, you know, that's a fair arrangement. Okay, when money, because money needs deals and deals need money, right? So that's how we put the JV agreement together. But I start to clock ticking actually on the full 115,000 from the time that they would put up the money to buy the lot or place the order of the home. So once I get the lot, I get my survey done because, you know, you got to have your lot lines figured out and you got to put a site plan together. Then you submit it to the city to get your permits. And I would say that takes about a month to 6 weeks. But in that time, you're getting your ducks in a row with your other contractors. And then you need 25% deposit to order the home. So what I've done to really kind of sweeten the deal, because, you know, some lenders might go, 10% and 2 points, big deal, all accrued to the back end, big deal. Yeah, but you know what? You're not loaning me the full 115 up front. Keep the money in your pocket. I only need 25% of that in the first 3 months to place the order. And then until the home gets delivered, I don't need the other 75%. So he's making me, you know, do you see how the numbers are here? They're actually laying out very little. And it's so far it's been working good.
Tom,
So,
let me bring up a couple of points that I just want to cover. So one of the things that I know a lot of mobile home people do is they're going to work on retiring that title before they put it on the market to sell, because there's a lot of companies that won't finance it if it still has its VIN number as a title rather than a house. Does
right.
that make sense? So I wanted to mention that. And then the other thing too, I love that you went over your numbers. I think what's important for people in the Carolinas and even Virginia and probably the upper part of Georgia to understand is that our pricing is going to be a little different. I mean, we see homes sell for mobile homes sell for $150,000, $180,000 all day long. But in our area, it's usually on 2 or 3 acres. And you can find those everywhere. They're everywhere. But, you know, we have small lakes and communities like that would fall right into what you're doing, you know, with the view in the back. So it's important to understand that your numbers may not look the same, but our lots would be a lot cheaper than what you're paying for them.
Wow.
A lot less expensive as well. And you know, the Carolinas, we are #1 in the nation for having the most mobile homes. So we certainly have the places for this. So this is great. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. See, again, what Wendy said is depending on the state you live in, you know, put your glasses on and filter it through those glasses for your market. Because if you could get the dirt cheaper, then, you know, maybe your overall end price to sell it would be cheaper. But if the numbers work for you, because you still have a substantial markup in here, and remember, there's not a lot of moving parts here. It's like, again, I go nuts with the concept that there's 0 trips to Home Depot. It allows you to do other things with your life. You're not a slave to a rehab if you're a fix and flip person.
You figured it out.
Right. The other thing too is we do have an enormous amount of I'm sorry, about repossessed mobile homes. There's an enormous amount of them available in our area. And up around here, depending on how far away it is from where you buy it, you know, you're looking at between 2,500 to 7,500 to get it moved and set up.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you know, some people, I keep in mind when I'm not beating up on rehabs. I've done over 300 fix and flips. And it was just this last one where the building department was so tough on me. And with the COVID restriction, I said, you know what? I don't like doing that anymore. So you might live in a place where they're not so strict on your code and your building and the permitting, because like I said, remember we get hurricanes here, so you know they are really strict, because when a house flies apart and it's a rehab and the insurance gets filed and they see that stuff was done without permits, then they're all pointing the finger, and they might start pointing the finger one day and have a valid point to say, well, wait a second, the permit history on the house doesn't show that this house was ever remodeled before. There's a new kitchen, you know, everything was done, because for a kitchen remodel in Florida you need a permit. If you're in a state that's really relaxed and they don't really care, and you can pull it off, and I admire those states actually. I'm all for less regulation, but that's not here in Florida. Now it is in these country towns that I can go to in Florida, but not along the coast. So oh, by the way, for the sake of the IRA, well, you say, well, wait a minute, the joint venture agreement, how do I get cash to you? Well, actually, one of our financial friends, she actually holds and disperses the funds as like an escrow agent. So like you don't even send the money to me when I find a joint venture partner for one of these deals. I don't touch it. I don't want the money. I don't want to blow up my IRA or anybody else's. So a third party neutral handles it. And then when Bob the electrician needs to get paid, I just call her up and say, hey, send Bob the electrician a check. And one cool thing we started doing is using these e-checks where she could just disperse a check to them. They print it out on their end and it's cashable right that day. So it's pretty cool. If you want, just Google e-checks if you want to find out more about that concept. So what's the paperwork look like? Well, actually, I spent many hours going over this with Walter and looking at his model. Well, first decide if it's going to be a tax in a tax-free environment or not. I'm trying to do a few of these a year if I can. All you need is really one to supercharge your IRA. If you're really in a small dollar position, maybe putting up $100. If you're buying the lot, it's still a relatively small dollar position, and you can find a capital partner to put up the remainder. So I start with buying the actual dirt in a land trust, and then the beneficiaries of land trust are the small dollar IRA or their personal property trust if they're using that concept. And that's probably a subject for another day. So if you're using a small dollar IRA or a large dollar IRA, and you're doing this tax-free, which I think this example is pointing out, their personal property trust owns 50% of the beneficial interest in the land trust. So next is a joint venture agreement. And by the way, there's no loan because we don't want to trigger U-BEAT. It's a joint, U-BIT, sorry about that. It's a JV agreement, and the option, all the agreements get those serial numbers filled out in there, because remember, as I mentioned earlier, you can get those from the factory before the order is even placed. So next is the option and a memorandum of option to protect your joint venture partner, your large dollar IRA or funding partner. You can say to the guy, hey, this is what we'll do. Just so we cloud the title that my trustee for my land trust will never be able to sell this out from underneath you, I'm going to give you an option to buy back the property for what my IRA is into it for. Because I don't want my IRA to ever take a loss. So if I keel over dead tomorrow, and you know, my wife and kids will step in to help see the project through, and everybody gets paid out and everybody's happy. But in the event that didn't happen, you have a memorandum of option recorded against the title so that you could buy it back for what my IRA has into it. So my IRA will get paid back and you have the control. And you've clouded the title with your phone number. Say, hey, if anybody's trying to sell this property for any reason at all, call me. Here's my phone number, because I'm a joint venture partner in this deal and I have an option to buy it. So the memorandum of option clouds the title so that it can't be sold. Next is an unrecorded mortgage securing the option. Actually, Walter gave me this idea to give the option holder or the large dollar IRA a little more power. Because let's say I died and then my heirs didn't want to deal with you. Or in your case, okay, you die, your heirs don't want to deal with you. They don't want to follow through with the transaction for whatever reason. We give them an unrecorded mortgage to secure the option. It doesn't get recorded, but remember, these are short-term transactions, hopefully in and out in 6 months. So if something ever happened in a catastrophe like that, where I'm not around to direct the transaction, then and the option itself isn't enough, then you've got this unrecorded mortgage that you can record on public record, and then you could file foreclosure, because the foreclosure process is to what? It's to forcefully take back title from the property. So you've always got that as like a third back door. We just wanted to make things as safe as we could. So these are some deals that I've actually got most all these funded right now. If you have, oh yeah, if you, this is what I said to my large dollar people. I said, you know, your biggest fear is that when you loan money on a fix and flip, is that you get the house back and it's only half done and the walls are opened up. And, you know, every hard money lender I've talked to, they've gotten one or two of those back in their time. This really can't happen in this model because, you know, as long as everybody does their thing, you're not going to have anything partly assembled. This, to show you the neighborhood, this is one that I might even go modular on this neighborhood. And
here we are at the other lot.
By the way, but before I go too crazy here with taking up time, how much time do we have, Wendy?
Oh, we're done with our time, but you're.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll just tell you, this is a really nice lake, and the houses in this particular subdivision are like in the $350,000 range. So on this particular lot where you see the sun setting here, it's kind of a rough picture, but on this particular lot, I'm actually going to go another step, and I just want to plant the seed in your mind is for another 15% of cost, you can have a mobile home a lot of times, depending on the manufacturer, turned into a modular home. Now, a modular home is stronger than a site-built home, a stick-built home. It's actually stronger, and it's DCA approved. And that's important because it took me 6 months to figure this out. Department of Consumer Affairs. Stick-built homes are usually DCA approved when they're done. The modular homes are DCA approved, so they appraise with the big boys.
Mm-hmm.
There's no adjustment in value. So if I'm willing to pay out an extra 15% in the construction costs and be willing to construct a little like 3 or 4 rows of cinder block walls around and place the home on that, now I'm able to appraise with the big boys. And I'm into it way less than the cost of a stick-built home. So I'm gonna just kind of fast forward through here, because if anybody has any questions, and this is wrapping up now, I do want to talk about the upcoming cruise, because this has been such a blessing to me to find people, great friends that are, many of them, I see Ginger down there. I met her on a cruise. I met a lot of friends and partners. Hey, Ken too, yes. You were out of the shop there, but now you're in the shop. If anybody has any questions about this, you can call me or email me. Probably email is best. Be happy to tell you more about the model. This is what's coming up, and this is more than a year away. This is November of 2021, the Financial Friends Cruise, which is, it's not going to be a long commitment. It's just going to be 5 days. But Walter and Quincy have retired from doing the cruise, but myself and Tanya Collins and Peggy Zerker, we've picked it up as the hosts, and we're going to continue with this. And we have the Allure of the Seas. That is not just a picture of the biggest, baddest ship on the water. It is the actual ship that we're going to be on. It's I think it's the 4th largest cruise ship in the world, and
Wow.
It's docked right here in Fort Lauderdale. So if you watch the Mighty Networks on FFM, and I'll be posting videos every time I drive by the port. Here's the flyer on it. And Walter and Q have both committed to be on board. And I hope we get as many folks as would like to join us. It's an amazing event to build relationships with people. And it's been a super blessing in my life. If you want to see more information, specifics about it, just go to ffnfuncruise.com and you'll see that flyer. and it'll tell you everything about it, where it's going, and the dates and the times. So having said that, I know I had a lot to get in here, and I just hope I was able to get it in and maybe broaden your mental horizons as you're driving around looking for real estate deals, to think where you might be able to implement this in your market. That's what I want your takeaway to be, is what can you do this with where you are?
Tom, that was like drinking from a fire hose. It was awesome. That was a lot of really great information. And if you'll send me that flyer too, I'll get that out to everybody on my list as well. You know, I can't say enough about the Financial Friends cruises. They're just so, not only do you learn a whole bunch, but they're fun. You
Yeah,
know?
they are.
It's pretty fun. So if someone wants to learn, you've just given us so much meat and gotten really granular with what you're doing. It's so interesting. How can people learn more about what you do? And can we get a copy of your PowerPoint?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I can, if you have a distribution way to get that, what do you put it on Dropbox and share a link or something?
Yeah,
like that?
yeah, I can put all of it in a Dropbox.
Okay. I can put it on Dropbox, and if you're on Dropbox, it's real easy to save to your Dropbox, and then you can share it out from there.
Awesome. So, but how can people learn more from you?
Learn more from me. Actually, right now I do mentoring on this subject and other subject. Right now I have about probably 10 students that I work with, and they can just contact me. I do offer mentoring. I didn't know if this was a venue to, you know, make an offering like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, they can just contact me. I'll tell you more about my personal mentoring if you wanted somebody to hold your hand through this whole process, or you wanted to come down and, you know, see what I'm doing. If you're in the area, give me a shout, something like that.
And your email address again is
It's get right there.
there we go. gethugechecks@gmail.com.
Yep.
Tom, that was just incredible. And I know everybody is, I've got all these chats over here where everybody's thrilled and excited from all that you've been sharing too. It's just been amazing. Thank you so very, very much. That was awesome. Don Harris, thank you for doing the devotion. That was wonderful.
Thanks.
And I'm jealous of both of you being in Florida. And by the way, Tom, Don Harris has been to that event that you were talking about in the Gulf Breeze Holiday Inn.
Okay.
That Don's from that area to begin with. So he's been there, done that. So you might have seen each other and didn't know it.
Probably.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you again. Y'all have an awesome weekend, and we will see you next week, hopefully at the restaurant. But anyway, we'll be here for sure on Zoom. Love you, mean it. Y'all have a great week. Thanks so much.
Y'all.
Bye-bye.